Hi, I've been watching a lot of YouTubes lately on homesteading because we're getting ready to get ours going again. And there's been another YouTube challenge that I want to participate in, and that was to do something new for 2019. I want to learn to get all the documents together to get my name listed on the Native American tribal list. This challenge comes from Quail Farm Hollow. Our family history begins before Oklahoma was a state. It was called the Indian Territory. And the government was going to allow people to come in and stake a claim on some land. Whoever got to a parcel of land first could lay a claim on it, and then they would get that land if they promised to work it. And so my great-grandpa, his name was William, was a very wise horse trainer, and he knew a good horse when he saw one. So he bought a really good horse, and he conditioned that horse to run hard and fast and be long-winded. And on the day before the land rush was supposed to go on, he camped out on the ground on the border. A lot of people sneaked in and went ahead and staked their claims early, and they were called Sooners, and that's why Oklahoma is known as the Sooner State. But he camped by the border and found this parcel of land in the Poto River Valley, close to where Worcester is now. He put his stakes up and he started farming that land. Now then, Grandpa William had a son named Ted, who is my grandpa, and Ted worked the farm too. He married a woman named Lydia. Lydia is the one that my Tea Party video on. They eventually had my dad, and my dad then lived on that farm. It became a three-generational farm like so many homesteaders used to do. Then the government took part of that land back because they wanted to make a floodplain out of it to create the Worcester Lake. And in fact, my maternal grandfather, this was during Dust Bowl days, my maternal grandfather worked with the WPA project and did a lot of the rock work around the Worcester Park now. But so then eventually my dad went into the service, and right after the service the oil boom in West Texas was going on. So he moved to Texas, and he spent the rest of his life out there until he retired. When he retired, he came back to his roots and settled in Oklahoma again and started a new homestead. Now, going back to Lydia and the old homestead, Lydia was a master gardener, and she loved her flowers. And she had all kinds of flowers. So when Mom and Dad came back to Oklahoma and made their final homestead, they went to the old home place and they took cuttings of the plants that Grandma had planted. And my daddy got the same green thumb that my grandma had. And so he took those cuttings and planted on the new homestead. Eventually, when their health deteriorated, Mother actually had a stroke, and that's when Bruce and I came to live with them. Once we came there, we needed to supplement our incomes because we had to quit jobs to do that. And so we wanted to bring animals back onto the farm again. And we bought chickens and ducks and guineas and sheep. We even raised a couple of calves. We fatted a couple of calves out. What?
And a bull.
Oh, yeah, we had a bull at one time. we had a bull at one time. And we had a donkey at one time. We didn't keep her very long, though, because she was all alone, and we didn't like the fact that she was lonely. So, what I want to do is offer any new subscriber to me. I want to take cuttings of those same 100-year-old plants now that my daddy brought over to his last homestead. If you want a cutting, please just let me know. I'll give you my email address at the end of this video. What I have available are a red climbing rose, a white gardenia, a mock orange. Now this one, some people say it's a flowering quince, but Grandma always called it fire in the bush. And then there's red honeysuckle. Now one more little surprise I have is that once Mom had her stroke and couldn't get outside and work in the garden anymore, and we brought all the animals back to the farm, she loved watching especially the little lambs. The little lambs are just so cute. So she started watching these lambs playing, and one day she saw a squirrel that was actually playing with the lambs. They were chasing each other and having a high old time. So her imagination went wild, and she started writing children's stories. She wrote these stories and I illustrated them, and eventually we got the books published. So I wanted to show you these. It's Cheeky, The Many Adventures of Cheeky the Curious Squirrel. And here Cheeky would go and visit our neighbor, Miss Dolly. We talk about the neighborhood. Here we found a little fawn just outside our fence one time, and Cheeky was watching the little fawn. So we've got a story about Cheeky and the fawn, and just all kinds. Here's one. Mother thought it was so funny one time that Cheeky it was a hot day, and he was just laying on a limb like this, and so she got a story about that, and we got that book published, and we did pretty well on it. And then she kept going, so we put a whole bunch more books together, Cheeky and Friends on the Little Short Farm, and it's along the same lines. I did some artwork in it too, and they're just, everyone who has read these little stories just love them. So what I would like to do to anyone who subscribes to my channel and says they want some of these little books, then if you will email me, I've got 2 sets of books that I'd be glad to give a new subscriber who has children under the age of 10. The reason why I say under the age of 10 is because my sister was a teacher, and she would take it to her class and read them a Cheeky story after lunch every day, and the children just loved it. And so then, and she was in the 3rd grade. The next year, some of the 4th graders came back and would tell her, "Oh, I just love the Cheeky stories. Do you still read them?" And they found out how they could get books too. And even a few 5th graders would come and ask for those books. But mostly it's about 3rd grade is the limit, because then the kids are getting past that. But if you want one of those books, or if you want any of those 100-year-old plants, I'll be glad to cut you some. Just give me drop me a line on my email. It's Granny B's Recipes, all one word, all small letters, GRANNYBEESRECIPES, Granny B's Recipes at gmail.com. So I thank you for listening to me one more time, and I hope you will leave me a comment, and I hope to hear from a lot of you. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.